starting goal. Very complicated type thing in that type of sense. Still not arranged type thing in that type of sense. Day before type thing in that type of sense. That's 0, 4, 14 type thing in that type of thing. And we're going to say that's first level type thing in that type of sense. And that's 0 experience, just like the first level there. Now, that's page 111 type thing. On that note type thing in that type of sense, that's first level type thing. Now, that's starting goal type thing in that type of sense. So that's starting goal type thing in that type of sense. You put a 1 next to it type thing in that type of sense. That's 1 type thing in that type of sense. That's first level type thing in that type of sense. 2, your first level note type thing in that type of sense, which is associated with 0 experience type thing in that type of sense. Now, in that type of thing, at first level, you're going to get your stuff type thing in that type of thing. Each class has a starting package that provides default equipment as well as default skills at default feat and so forth. If you equip your character with the default equipment, you can customize these packages. If you don't want to take the standard package for your character class, you can instead purchase weapons, armor, and miscellaneous equipments by item. Begin with a random number of gold pieces that is determined by your character's class. Now, on that type thing in that type of sense, you go back to page 22 type thing in that type of sense. Very complicated. Very, very complicated type thing in that type of sense. That's table 3.1 type thing. That's the first table type thing in that type of sense. This is the second table type thing in that type of thing. And starting money is at second level type thing in that type of sense with a number before it, which is first type thing in that type of sense. So you get your starting money at first. That's barbarian type money type thing in that type of sense. And that's 44. Now, in that type of thing, you're going to get 44 type thing. That's a 4. And we're not going to use the same dice. I know it's sacrilegious type thing in that type of sense. That's 4. That's 4. And that's 4 type thing in that type of sense. All these are D4s type thing in that type of thing. That's 4 plus 4. That's 8. Plus 4. That's 12. That's 3 of them type thing. That's 4. That's 16. Now, that's 16 type thing in that type of sense times 10 type thing in that type of means. And that's 16 moved over to the 10 type thing in that means type thing in that type of sense. That's 16 times 10 type thing here in that type of thing in that type of sense. That's 16 times 10 in that means. And then you take 16. Well, you might want to add up the dice first to make sure. But that's 16 times 10 type thing in that type of sense. And that's 160 type thing in that means. Here, they have average type thing is equal to 100 type thing in that type of sense. So now, out of the total possible type thing in that type of sense, you're going to put in the average type thing was the total possible type thing in that type of thing. So now, in that, we just had that type of thing. The total possible was 160 type thing. And an average, they have 100 type thing in that type of sense. And from that type thing in that type of thing, that's 100 divided by 160 type thing in that type of sense. And that's 62.5 type thing, 62.5%. And that's over 90% type thing in that type of sense. That's per century type thing. So that's 62.5% divided by 100% type thing in that type of sense. Now, that's an A plus is 100% type thing. That's 62.5% type thing in that type of means. And so you look up a percent that's equal to that type thing in that sense. That's very complicated. Now, in there type thing in that type of sense, that's an A plus type thing. That's 100%. And that's 60 to 66. That's 1 point grade average type thing. And that's a D. So you write a D next to it type thing in that type of sense. And that's it. So average type thing for a barbarian would be getting 100 gold pieces type thing in that type of sense. But if you want to go to max type thing in that type of sense, that's going to be average over max. And so in that type of thing in that type of sense, the average of 100 gold pieces type thing was the max type thing in that type of sense. And it wasn't. If you add another 60 to that type thing in that type of sense, then you will have the max type thing in that type of sense and 160. So now that's 160. So that's the max. So that's the max type thing in that type of sense is that 160 type thing in that type of sense. Now we're going to go get the average type thing in that type of sense. And the average in the book type thing in that type of sense is 100. You're going to write 100 type thing over the top of the 160 type thing in that type of sense. Then you divide that out type thing in that type of sense. And you get the 62.5% type thing over the 100% of the max type thing in that type of sense. And they got a D out of the A plus. And that's like half type thing. Half type thing in that type of sense would be 80 over 160 type thing in that type of sense. And that would be 50% type thing in that type of sense. Yeah. And that's 20 more type thing in a type of sense. And that's how you do the starting goal.